Hello, Professor Didi here, talking to you today about interest groups. What is an interest group? What is their role in the political process? An interest group definition is a little similar to political parties. It's an organized group of people gathered together because of common interests looking to affect the government. And the common interest can be women's rights, it can be gun owners' rights, it can be a variety of things. Interest groups is the politics of persuasion in organization. The better organized an interest group, the better the chance the interest group has for success. When it's disorganized and chaotic, usually you don't have victories. If you have organization and money, like the AARP does, you're more likely to have a lot of success when it comes to being an interest group. Interest groups are as old as the political process. If you think about it, the suffragettes, the abolitionists of the 1800s and 1900s, they were interest groups. The NAACP was founded in 1909 as an interest group that promote the rights of African Americans. Today in this country, there are over 500,000 interest groups, and frankly, it's growing daily. Interest groups have a variety of roles in society. They educate people with information and propaganda. You're always pointing out your side. When there's a situation where a woman shoots an intruder in the house, the NRA promotes gun safety and how she protected her family. But when a gun goes off when the 5-year-old shoots the 4-year-old, the NRA doesn't mention those situations. Interest groups provide money to candidates, and they lobby government officials to get what they want. They'll apply grassroots pressure from citizens to convince government leaders to do what they want them to do. They participate in the process and get their members fired up. They build support for issues and make sure their members know an election is occurring. Interest groups have multiplied across the country because of all the issues government needs to deal with. In the 1960s, the New Politics movement grew the movement of interest groups, especially with the reforms regarding campaign contributions. Economic and business interest groups tend to favor Republicans, whereas consumer groups and working class groups tend to favor Democrats. Environmental groups, education groups generally be more likely to support Democrats. With 535 members of Congress, you're bound to find at least one friend in Congress who can support your issues. And interest groups have an important role in the process. That's why interest groups lobby Washington so heavily for what they want. There are two major types of interest groups: multiple issue interest groups and single issue groups. Multiple issue interest groups lobby on a variety of things. Single issue interest groups focus on one thing. Like the NRA, it's all about guns. It's not about tax policy. Whereas the Chamber of Commerce covers a variety of issues in that area. One thing that interest groups do not like is free riders. You can think of them sometimes as freeloaders. They are people that get the benefits of the interest group without joining them. You don't have to join the AARP to get the benefits that AARP fights for seniors. And you don't have to join the NRA to get the benefits the NRA does for gun rights owners. There's a lot of other benefits for joining an interest group. There's the material benefit, the service you get, whether it's a discount card or a variety of things. There's the solidarity benefit of meeting people who belong to the group and feeling you're doing something. There's also the benefit of feeling I'm benefiting all of mankind. This is a great purpose in society. The AARP has over 40 million members. And with 40 million members, you're bound to grow even further. And they recruit people while they're young, get them involved early. The memberships for these types of organizations are very inexpensive. And what do you get out of it? You get discounts, etc. Think about this. $65 for 5 years to join the AARP. And if you use your AARP card maybe 3 times in a year to get a 10% discount on a hotel, the card pays for itself. That's why organizations like to promote those cards, and hotels like to promote them too. Because senior citizens don't trash hotel rooms, and it's better to give someone a 10% discount on a hotel room than to not get any money for the room. Interest groups have a variety of tactics and strategies in order to promote themselves, but to get what they want. They have electoral strategies, promoting elections, providing money to candidates, recruiting volunteers, doing endorsements. Sometimes an endorsement from an interest group can be the major thing that helps a candidate get elected to office. Interest groups also provide lobbying forms of interest as far as contacting elected officials and persuading them, here's the way you should vote. Interest groups also appeal to the public to try to convince average citizens to support a cause and to contact their elected official. There's a couple other interesting aspects to interest group tactics I want to talk about. The first tactic is demonstrations and protesting. People will sympathize with demonstrators and protesters. It worked for the civil rights movement, but they will sympathize until the first Molotov cocktail gets thrown. People will sympathize with a cause, but they lose their sympathy for the cause when violence occurs. Look how the public changed regarding Freddie Gray when that happened in Baltimore. They sympathized with Freddie Gray until people started throwing bricks at police officers. Another tactic of interest groups is the tactic of litigation. Go to court, use the court system. Now you may think, well, that sounds like a weird tactic. How could that ever work? Well, the NAACP used that tactic in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, and 60s to get the civil rights measures they wanted. Congress was never going to pass laws integrating our country. So the NAACP used the courts to get litigation and get litigation in their favor to integrate American society. A couple other important aspects related to interest groups. Access equals power. For an interest group, if you can contact a member of any elected body and they return your phone calls and they'll meet with you, that's access. That's power. Having access to an elected official goes a long way to help an interest group. And the important factor regarding this is also staff members and people who work for elected officials. They are one of the first major gatekeepers. You're not necessarily trying to lobby the elected official. Sometimes it's getting your foot in the door and lobbying the person who works for the elected official. There's a variety of lobbying tactics that are used. We talk about direct lobbying, writing letters, and a variety of things. Sometimes lobbying also includes the iron triangle. And the iron triangle is where you not lobby just at the legislative branch of government. You lobby the judicial branch in your own way, and you lobby the executive branch. I want to read a quote about lobbyists. And this quote is a little crude, I will admit. But it was a quote from a man named Jesse Unruh, who was the former Speaker of the California Assembly in the 1960s. And he talked about legislators as far as standing up to lobbyists. And he basically was trying to say, you're going to be lobbied all the time. And you have to be able to say no. And he said the following. He offered this advice to incoming legislators about lobbyists. If you can't eat their food, drink their booze, screw their women, and then vote against them, you have no business being here. It was a very strong, powerful quote. But in many ways, he was right. If you ever watched the movie Thank You for Smoking, which was done in about 2006, in many ways, and I've talked to several lobbyists, the movie is very accurate. One of the things that you'll experience during this course is also watching a video that Bob McKinney, a lobbyist, did several years ago, talking about his role as a lobbyist. And Bob's a good friend of mine and told a lot of stories that he probably later told me, I should have never said that. Lobbying is an important element in American politics, and we lobby all the time. You lobby not just for wanting to stop government from doing something. You lobby for a higher grade. You lobby, if you remember in your youth, for a longer curfew. You're lobbying all the time. It's the art of persuasion. And the better you do it and the better the argument you make, the more success you're likely to have. This leads to the last aspect regarding lobbying. It's called PACs, Political Action Committees. These are organizations that interest groups create to funnel money to candidates. You just can't win an election writing your own checkbook. If you're going to vote in favor of the NRA, You want the NRA to use their political action committee to give you money to help you get reelected. And PACs aren't just the NRA. Home Depot has a PAC. Walmart has a political action committee. Candidates even have political action committees for themselves. The AARP has a political action committee. This is how candidates raise money. If you go to various organizations and you do some Google searches, like votesmart.org and a variety of other things like opensecrets.org, you can trace and follow the money candidates get and who gives it to them. And this is a very important aspect to figure out who's supporting candidates and what issues they care about. Most importantly of all, take care, have a great day.